In this episode, I'm going to share with you 5 tips that will increase your catch rate this winter. What is up, guys? Welcome back to another fishing tutorial. I hope you're all keeping safe and well. If you are a returning subscriber, thanks for tuning in again. And if you are new here, my name is Rhys. I make fly fishing videos and tutorials that will help you catch more fish. So if you would like to learn more, please press the red subscribe button and smash that bell so that you don't miss out on future videos. Okay, so today we're talking about 5 tips that will help you put more fish in the net this winter. Before we get into this, I just want to preface by saying that these aren't rules. These are simply principles that I've adopted and stick to, and have fed me well in my winter fishing. One of the most important parts about these 5 tips is understanding when one isn't working and when you move on to the next. So please take note of all of these tips and find out what works for you in amongst them. Arrive early. Now it sounds obvious, but you will be surprised how productive that first half an hour of a session can be at any fishery around the UK. The amount of times that I've turned up to the fishery, say 10 minutes before it's about to open, I've already got my lines, my rods, my whole cast set up ready on spools, so that I'm almost the first person on the water that day showing my flies to the fish, how that's affected and increased my catch rate tenfold. That first half an hour is very important in winter, and what you'll find is because winter fishing is where small stillwater fishing really comes to its fore, it's very popular. By 10 o'clock you can have a full lake of anglers and you're there ready to go at 5 to 7 with everything set up. You can be casting by 7:05 while the first set of anglers are still setting up. So prepare your kit the night before, have your leaders ready, have your lines ready, have a think about what you want to be fishing the following day so that off the bat you are ready to go within 5 minutes of that fishery opening. Okay, and then number 2, don't be normal or don't stick to the norm. Quite often now you will go on any fishery in the UK and you can be guaranteed that if there's 20 anglers on the lake, about 12 to 15 of them are doing the exact same thing. Whether it's fishing the bung or fishing lures, try and be different, because what's going to happen is if there's 15 people fishing a black snake on a sinking line, those fish are going to get very bored of that method very, very quickly. And then it pays to do something different. Now, I'm not saying that you should switch to a size 20 dry and fish that all day when everybody else is fishing lures and the bung and sorts, because in winter I do think that those methods will outfish naturals to a certain extent, but there are small things that you can do. So what we don't see anymore now is someone fishing, say, a 15 or a 16 foot long leader on a floating line with one single bloodworm buzzer. Now, I'm not talking about a red apsworm, I'm talking about a buzzer, claret or red colour that represents an actual bloodworm on the lake bed. How often do you see people fish that these days? It's rare, let's be honest. It used to be one of the most devastating methods in winter, but it's fallen away, it's out of fashion. But it doesn't mean that it won't still work. So you've got to think out the box slightly in that respect. Now, I'm not saying that you should be fishing size 20 dries when it's -1. That isn't going to work in most cases, but there are small subtle things you can do. For example, if everybody is fishing big snakes on sinking lines, fish a smaller snake. Rather than a 7 or 8 centimeter snake, fish a 5 centimeter snake. That smaller profile of that fly may just generate enough interest in those fish when everybody else is just pulling these big gaudy lures and nothing is happening. So don't stick to the norm, try something different, and you'll be surprised at times how well it can work. And if you get the right result and you start catching fish around everybody else, you can bet everybody will want to know what exactly it is you're fishing, and you'll get questions. Okay, and then tip number 3, fish the last hour of daylight. You'd be surprised how often the last hour of daylight the fish can absolutely switch on. And you'd almost catch the same amount of fish as you would in the first hour of your session. Why that is, I don't know. I've just found that there've been plenty of examples and times now where we've been out, we fished the whole day, we've had a productive morning, it's died off a little bit in the afternoon, and then about 2 or 3 o'clock, you tend to get a footful of anglers who leave and go home. If they just stayed for the 4 to 5 o'clock period, you'd be surprised how well it works. A perfect example of this was in Rhys versus Jeremy recently up in Graig Lloyd. So we started off the session about 12 o'clock. We both were into fish consistently. I managed to pull a lead away and then Jeremy fell behind. In Jeremy's last hour, which was the last hour of the day, Jeremy clawed it back and beat me. That was all of his fish were caught in the last hour of the day. So the fish are still in the same area throughout the day, but what you'll find is you'll have a lull on late afternoon, and in the last hour it'll just pick back up and you'll start getting takes again on the same methods that you would have fished the first thing in the morning. So if you can, try and make the most of that day. Try and stay out all day. It's not like summer where we start at, say, 8 or 9 and then we fish till 10. That's a long day. In winter you'll just fish until 4 or 5, but you're missing out on what is arguably as good an hour as the first hour in the morning. So stick around for that hour and you will see your catch rate increase. Okay, and then number 4, keep on the move. So this approach largely comes from competition fishing. You're basically given an hour to 45 minutes on a peg before you have to move. But if we drop the competition aspect of it, it's not about the competition. What it offers you is a disciplined approach and opportunity to cover more fish in the same period if you didn't do it. If you didn't adopt this and you just said, oh, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go there, I'm going to spend 2 hours here, the time goes, and before you know it, you've spent 2 hours on what is not a very good part of the lake, and you've missed out on an opportunity to cover maybe 5 fish or 6 fish on a different part of the lake that you wouldn't have otherwise done. But if you've got 45 minutes on a peg and then you say, right, I've got to move now, you are eventually going to cover the whole lake, and you're going to cover as many fish as you can around that lake. Now, there are always hot pegs at every fishery that every angler wants to get onto at some point, but let's be honest, there's not much skill in pulling 20 or 30 fish off of one peg and sitting on it all day. You'll get more respect and you will learn more about yourself as a fisherman and methods if you cover more water with different methods. So next time you're out, take a watch with you or use your phone, time yourself for 45 minutes, set your alarm, and then when that alarm goes, you move. Whether you like it or not, move. You will cover more fish during your day session. You will become a better angler. Okay, and then tip number 5, watercraft. Read the water. Look what's happening in front of you. In spring and summer, it's quite easy. You can be guaranteed that there will be a buzzer hatch at some point in the day, every day during that seasonal period. In winter, it's much more difficult. You have to have the right conditions for it, but you can see things happening and read them and interpret that in how you pick your methods. So for example, in winter, can you see a hatch happening on the top of the water? Can you see flies coming off, but then there's no fish rising? What that basically means is that there is a buzzer hatch happening at that warm period of the day, but the fish are probably just sitting below the surface, feeding on the larvae as it's coming up. So what you would then do is switch to straight line, 2 nymphs and a buzzer, or 3 buzzers if you prefer, and just work them throughout the water column. If, for example, you've got the hatch happening on the top, but there are also fish feeding on the top, then switch to dries. Yes, it might be December the 25th or January the 30th, and it's very cold, it's maybe 3 or 4 degrees, but read the water. If you've got that food in front of you, change. One of the most common misconceptions that happens in winter is that everybody thinks, right, I've got to stick to fishing snakes and big lures, stuff like that, for 7 hours straight. When it's not. Look what's happening in front of you, read the water. The fish and the fly life will give you signs of what to do. And by making that decision, the person next to you who is fishing lures all day might get a few fish, but when you identify that, you could change your method, fish for 20 minutes and pull out 5 fish no problem, while the person next to you who's still pulling lures has nothing. It's about understanding what's happening under or above the water and then changing your method to suit. Now, if you would like to learn more about the natural approach to winter fishing, why not check out this video here? And YouTube seems to think that you would like to see this video here. As always, guys, if you found it at all helpful, please give this a thumbs up. It helps the channel. And if you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing. My name is Rhys. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next week.